Im Namen des Römer-Knauer Verlages begrüße ich Sie zur digitalen Buchmesse mit dem Bestseller-Autor Christopher Paolini zu seinem neuen Werk. Im Original heißt es To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. Im Deutschen heißt es Infinitum. Christopher, what made you change from Earth and dragons to expand the universe, the endless skies above us?
Because I grew up reading as much science fiction as fantasy, and I love imagining, what might be out there in the universe. I love the thought of exploring and humanity spreading out beyond Earth. And I just wanted to capture that sense of wonder that I feel when I look up at the stars. That and tell an exciting story full of adventure and spaceships and alien planets and all of that fun stuff.
I heard that you already started with that project in 2006, which is 14 years ago, if I'm correct. What made you keep going for such a long time? I mean, 14 years, was it research? Was it creating your new universe? Or, did you have other projects to finish? And it's quite a time, so I'm interested to learn how it went on.
The answer is a combination of all of those things. Back in 2006, 2007, I was still finishing the Aragon series. So I knew I had a commitment to my fans and to my readers to ensure that I did finish that story. And I felt like I couldn't just go and write something new. So I finished the Aragon series, and that took me until 2011. And then I was touring for it all the way into mid or late 2012, and that included coming to Germany, which was a wonderful visit. But then I took a little break, and then I started my research, and I even wrote a short prequel novel, which I'm currently revising. So all of that was just a lot of groundwork, a lot of thinking, a lot of work, a lot of writing. And the only reason I was willing to put that much work and time into this project is because I truly cared about the ideas and the emotions that I was trying to convey to the readers. And so far, at least, the response from early readers has been overwhelmingly positive. And as an author, that just makes me smile and makes me want to write the next one.
I was one of the blessed ones, let's say it, and a little bit privileged to have the chance to read it ahead of others. And I have to say it's very poetic, and one can feel your love. I mean, you're really in love with the universe and the opportunities you have to create new species, new adventures, and you have created a new character. This time it's a female hero. Could you explain a little about her name is Kira? I can spoiler that. So can you explain how was your journey with Kira?
It was a long journey, and it was difficult at times because I didn't fully understand her when I started this whole project. And over the course of working on it and over the course of thinking of the book, I really came to know her quite personally. The biggest difference for me was that she's not an adolescent. She's not a teenager. She's a grown adult, and she has concerns and fears and hopes and desires and flaws that are very adult. And that took some time to really grasp. This is the first time I've written a full-size novel, and it's a big novel with a female lead character. But I have written female characters before from their point of view. And I didn't try to focus on any sort of stereotypical differences between men and women because, everyone's different. And I have met men who are incredibly different from other men and women who are incredibly different from other women. And stereotyping like that, I find unhelpful when it comes to writing. So I simply tried to write the best version of Kira as I could, as I understand her as a person, and to just respect her and put her in lots of horrible situations that she then had to figure out how to deal with and solve.
Talk a little bit about the horrible situations. I mean, she is a contractor, so she works for a company. humankind has sort of started to explore space, the opportunities we have. And it's about a place far away, but it's the closest system, solar system we have. How much research did it take you with NASA and others and scientists to develop this, well, really, really interesting new start of the novel?
Thank you. Well, it was about a year of solid research, and that was combined with all of the reading I normally do about, what's going on in the scientific world, what's going on in astrophysics and SpaceX and exploration and all of that. So the main thing for me was figuring out the physics for my faster than light travel, which allows my characters to travel from one star system to another. And then also just trying to really think and be realistic about how humans would actually settle on other planets and the dangers we might face and the technology we would need and how all of that would look and feel and work. So at the same time, without trying to overload the reader with a massive amount of technical information that the reader probably won't care about. So the information is there, and there's a lot of it in the back material, in the appendices for the book. But the material, the research informs how the story evolves and what is even possible in the story. You can say that in fantasy that magic is the limiting factor. Magic is what determines what is or isn't possible in your fantasy universe. And technology, science serves the same function in science fiction.
But as an author, there is science and things that might happen or can happen. And on the other hand, there has to be adventure. Kira is far, far away, still close because it's the next solar system to ours. She works on a day-to-day basis, has some positive thing happen. Are we going to tell it, or are we going to keep it in the dark?
I think we can keep it as a secret for the moment. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, though. And one thing that some science fiction does is it goes so far in the future and it imagines so many solutions to the problems that we face that the future becomes idyllic. It becomes unrealistic. It becomes magical to a degree that's hard to relate to. And I really wanted to keep in mind that no matter what the technology happens to be, humans will still be humans, within certain limitations. And we'll always have restrictions of time and energy, resources, and those dictate how people are going to live their lives.
When you write about the new species, because there are going to be new species, it's space, and you need adventure, and you already told us it's a combination of sci-fi and new adventures, so you keep us excited. How do you write about them without giving them, let's say, too many human characterizations?
It's hard. It's very hard. I don't know what the German title would be, but in English, the movie Arrival, which came out a few years ago, had some very alien aliens. They didn't really share a whole lot of similar characteristics with humans. And that is a really good way to approach another species. But that said, we have lots of examples on Earth of other forms of life, some of which is quite intelligent, maybe not as intelligent as we are, but it's quite intelligent. And all of those different forms of life do share the same, what is the word here? A lot of the same needs and desires we have on a very basic level. They need to eat. They need to sleep. They often need companionship. Not every creature does, but most creatures do. They need to reproduce. They need to protect their offspring in one way or another. Although not every creature does that, but it is a trend. So when it came time to think about the aliens, I felt like there are some similarities that any living creatures, especially intelligent ones, are going to have to share. And they are those basic drives of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's food, it's shelter, it's reproduction. And if they're intelligent, probably some form of creativity or intellectual stimulation. Now, the differences, though, still remain vast. And there is no right answer for how to tackle that. I did what felt right for the creatures I was creating, the species I was creating. But you could do it in so many different ways. And it's something I want to continue writing in the future because there are so many possibilities.
Well, for the love of sci-fi, and you mentioned that you liked sci-fi always a lot, how do I have to picture the younger Christopher Paolini? You were more the Star Wars or more the Star Trek guy? Or was it like, I don't care as long as it's somewhere out there?
It was both. I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. I love science fiction. I love fantasy. But if I had to choose, I would probably choose Star Trek, because Star Trek, at least the original series and Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, had an optimistic view of the future and humanity that I think is important. And one of the reasons I wrote this book was because I'm an optimist also. There are so many things in the world that one could feel bad about. We face a lot of challenges as a species. But that's okay. If you look at history, we've always faced challenges. And I think it's important to write things and think things that help humanity pull together and accomplish greater feats, feats of imagination, feats of engineering, what have you. Writing stories that are cynical or depressing, or in English, we have a term called grimdark. It's one word, grimdark fantasy or grimdark science fiction. And I understand the appeal, and it can be a wonderful, counterpoint to stories where the hero always wins. But I have heard from so many readers over the years who have been, touched by my work and have found it helpful in difficult periods of their life, that it makes me wonder, what would happen if they read a story that didn't help them in that difficult period in their life, or something that actively made it worse. And I don't want to put anything out in the world that actively makes it worse. So I will certainly write about difficult things and have my characters in horrible situations at times. But ultimately, I think my message is always going to be one of optimism and hope.
I think that is a very good aspect. In German, the title is INFINITUM, which means the eternity of the stars, like there is no ending. And in English, you have this very poetic title, To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. Could you explain why that is so important for you, and what is the relation to the book of that line?
Well, in English, the title is actually from a poem within the book itself that appears fairly late in the book. But I didn't have the poem when I thought of the title. I thought of the title first. And the reason I have kept this title for since 2006, 2007, is because to me, it sums up the essence of the story and what I was trying to capture, and what it feels to me like we as a species are doing in the universe. And perhaps if we're very lucky, we may awaken and see the wonders that are out there. But no, that title for me was the essence of the story and the feeling I was trying to capture. And of course, as I said, it relates to a poem in the book.
You said our relations with each other, and you also have that in the book that, well, getting along isn't that easy. And also with other species, it can be difficult, or there can be a lot of misunderstanding. Is that sort of the core of your books? Because I know even in Aragon, they always have to struggle to get along and get their things together. So is it a little bit of a reflection of your life that you've grown now and you're older, so there's a lot of your experiences, let's say it like that, in the book?
Oh, I'm sure that there are. I suppose I should qualify what I said earlier, which is I am certainly an optimist, but I'm also an immense cynic when it comes to human behavior. anatomically modern humans have existed for something like 200,000 years, and we have been fighting and battling and working together and aggravating each other and making beautiful pieces of art for that entire time. And I don't expect that to change in another 100 or 200 years. So just along with that optimism, I again felt it was important to be realistic about the limitations we have, and also the fact that everyone has their own desires and their own goals and their own philosophies that they acquire from school, that they acquire from politicians, that they acquire from religions, and that all feeds into how we behave, and it funnels us into different directions. What I think we should be doing as a species is not necessarily what anyone else thinks it should be done as a species, and those differences of opinion do make us stronger. But it also is it is a point of great contention for so many people.
I have to, because I can see it all the time. You have this wonderful brooch. Can you tell me a little bit more about the brooch you're wearing on your pullover?
Yes. This pin is actually the symbol of the fractal verse, and the fractal verse is the setting. It's what I call the setting for this book, and it's going to be a setting in which I tell many more stories in the future, both in the far future, the distant past, and in the modern day, because the fractal verse includes the real world. It includes Earth. It includes all of known history. And this is a symbol that's actually inside the book. And if people are interested, we have these pins for sale on my Etsy store, along with a couple of other fun pieces of merchandise. But I'm very fond of this symbol, and I'll be putting it out there in many different ways.
I've heard the rumor that your sister also worked on the book, so it's sort of a family project.
Yeah, my sister and I developed the fractal verse over many years. This was an ongoing is an ongoing conversation between the two of us. So she and I are always bouncing ideas off, and there are quite a few points here in the story from her. And then she's one of my early readers. In fact, she was the one who read the very first draft of this book and quite kindly told me that it just wasn't working, which, is always hard to hear, but it's better to hear it before a book gets published, when you still have a chance to do something about that.
Do I get it right? She is one of your hardest critics, and you accepted that you sort of go into a creative chat with each other to find out what to do better? Or, of course, he says, she says, there's always the situation, and you have a female character, so I'm sure you listened a lot to your sister this time.
Well, everyone is going to have a different opinion. My mom is also one of my early readers. So is my dad, other members of my family. And getting a variety of opinions is very, very useful. But it's also, I think, important to have people who will tell you what they think honestly. Because if something needs to be fixed and someone doesn't want to hurt your feelings and isn't willing to say, hey, this really isn't working, it needs to be fixed, then they're kind of useless in terms of helping you improve as an artist. So I'm very grateful, actually, to have people in my life who can give me that sort of open and unvarnished opinion while still, being considerate of my feelings, because I've poured so much time and energy into the book. It's not like they're just coming and banging down my door and saying, hey, this sucks, go do something else. It's not like that. It's more like, this didn't work for me. What could be, maybe you should spend some time and reevaluate this point.
Well, let's go. We in Germany say, butter the fish, meaning get to the basics. So if it sucks and you're frustrated, what is Christopher Paolini doing? Chopping down a tree in Montana?
That's not too far off the reality. I will usually go for a walk out here in the landscape. Sometimes I'll lift weights, or I'll go for a run, or just talk about the story with my friends or family. But usually I just want to get off the computer if I'm stuck, and try to get my brain working in a new way to reevaluate whatever it is I'm having difficulty with. I spend a lot of time also writing notes by hand. So when I restructured the story for To Sleep after the first draft, I actually wrote about 200 pages of notes by hand in a week and a half. And for whatever reason, writing by hand triggers a different part of my brain as opposed to like a keyboard. So that allowed me to, step out of my preconceived notions and think of something new.
I get it. Do you have certain part of the book you might like to read for us that we get a little spoiler?
If you want, I can certainly give it a shot. All right, so this is actually, in the English edition, this is from page 156 to 157. And so the book is divided into sections, and this is from the second section in the book. And this shouldn't be too spoilery for anyone who hasn't read the book. But my main character, Kira, has come onto this new spaceship, and the spaceship is currently under thrust. So there's a sense of gravity. And right at this moment, the thrust is ceasing. So we're going to go into free fall. And she hasn't been in the ship before, so she's just going through it for the first time. And this is what she sees. And this is going to be about a page long, so not too long. An alert sounded, a short beep and a minor tone. And then the floor seemed to drop away. And Kira clutched the handhold tighter as vertigo made the walls and floor swirl about her. Her dizziness passed as she reset her perspective from an up and down view to a forward backward one, where she was floating in a long horizontal tube. She'd really had enough of free fall. Behind her, at the back of the tube, she heard a scrabbling noise. She turned to see a whitish-gray Siamese cat hurtle out of an open doorway and collide with the ladder. The cat caught the ladder with its claws, and then with practiced ease sprang off the rungs and launched itself toward the other end of the shaft. Kira watched, impressed, as the cat soared along the ladder, turning slightly as it flew, a long, furry missile armed with teeth and claws. The cat glared at her as it passed by, venomous hatred flashing from its emerald eyes. "That's our ship cat, Mr. Fuzzy Pants," said Trig. The cat looked more like a murderous little demon than a Mr. Fuzzy Pants, but Kira took him at his word. A second later, she heard another noise at the back of the room, this one a metallic-like clatter that reminded her of hooves? Then a brown and pink mass rushed through the doorway and bounced off the ladder. It squealed and kicked its stubby legs until it caught one hoof on the ladder. The hoof stuck, and the creature, the pig, jumped after the cat. The sight of the pig was so surreal that it left Kira flabbergasted. As always, life continued to surprise her with the depths of its weirdness. The cat landed at the other end of the room and promptly sprang away through another open doorway. A moment later, the pig followed suit. "What was that?" Kira said, finding her voice. "That's our ship pig, Runcible." "Your ship pig?" "Yep. We put some gecko pads on his hooves so he can move around in free fall." "But why a ship pig?" "Because that way we can always bring home the bacon." Trig cackled and Kira winced. 88 days in FTL just to be subjected to bad puns. Where was the justice in that?
Bravo. Very, very funny. And I like the idea of sort of normal animals in space. And it's a reminiscence to Miss Peggy, because she did this famous show called Pigs in Space. So there you go.
Knowing humans, if we ever land on an alien planet and find alien life, The first thing we'll do is say, does it want to eat me? And then we'll say, can I pet it? And then we'll probably say, can I eat it? So, you know, that's humanity for you.
Yeah, you're right. What is your expectation of the German fans reading your book? Do you look forward to get a lot of reviews? And, well, will you come to Germany when it's possible again?
I will definitely come back to Germany. I was there last year touring for my short story collection, The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm. And in fact, I had my largest European event for that book in, I'm trying to remember where I was because I was so jet lagged that the name is slipping my mind at the moment. But I had a wonderful time, and I've enjoyed all of my events in Germany over the years. As for my expectations, I have high expectations. I know that I have an enormous number of readers in Germany, and I think that you know, they're going to enjoy this book. I certainly hope they're going to enjoy this book, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing the feedback. I've been seeing lots and lots of pictures on social media with, you know, people grabbing pictures of the book in the stores there in Germany and buying the book and then posting the cover on, you know, Instagram and Twitter. And that's really exciting for me because I haven't even seen the German edition yet. So my fans are getting it before I've gotten it.
Yeah, that's part of the game. I'm sorry.
No, it's great and it's wonderful.
You wrote the book, and we can already say if it's working, there's going to be another one because this is an endless story again. Are you already preparing yourself for a new sea of stars?
I am currently working on a short prequel novel, which I wrote
Uh-huh.
in 2013, and I need some revision, so I'm hoping it'll be done in the next month or two. And then after that, I'm going to take a break. Not a long one, but just a nice little break, take a deep breath, and then I'll decide what I want to do next. There are more stories in the Fractalverse I want to write, and I also want to write more stories that are essentially fantasy and set within the world of Aragon. So one thing at a time. But
Yeah.
there will definitely be lots more in the Fractalverse.
What is the perfect break for Christopher Paolini? That would be a secret.
Ooh, reading a good book.
Yeah.
Having a nice cup of cinnamon tea while there's snow falling on the mountains, and spending time with my family, playing some games, sometimes playing video games, but it's nice to spend time with other people. So anything where I don't have to think about the writing, that makes for a nice break for me.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for the interview. Thank you so much taking the time to explore a little the new book. We're very excited to read it, all of us. And well, to see you again in Germany or Austria. There are more parts who speak German. And yeah, break a leg for everything. Thank you so much, Christopher
Thank you.
Paoli.
My pleasure.